Namo So Shri Namo Namo Shri So O Namo Manju Shri Namo So Shri Namo Namo Shri So Yu Dang Zu Ge Ju Nang La Jiang Zhu Man Du Nang Ni Ge Zu Ji Da Ge Ju Nie Ge Be Cong Nang Ge Ru La Ben Jie Sang Ge Zhu Ma Zhu Yu Dang Zu Ge Ju Nang La Jiang Zhu Man Du Nang Ni Ge Zu Ji Da Ge Ju Nie Ge Be Cong Nang Ge Ru La Ben Jie Sang Ge Zhu Ma Zhu Yu Dang Zu Ge Ju Nang La Jiang Zhu Man Du Nang Ni Ge Zu Ji Da Ge Ju Nie Ge Be Cong Nang Ge Ru La Ben Jie Sang Ge Zhu Ma Zhu Be Ge Ju Yin Me Du Zhang Ra Li Shen Jin Jie Ge Ma Di San Ge Xin Du Me Jie Mu Ma Ye Zhe Ge Nong Da Xin La Jue Ba Shu Gu Zhou Ren Na Men Da Ma Gan Li Ya Da Ya Mi
Luna Chedi de Shada Vaji, the one in the town, the double changing the moment, studying the Lando College of Premium by him, the PTW to Mountain, what the Egypt, what people for the Timber, Denver, Timber Damage of the Shin, Lama, she never changes.
So you suggest your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairocana. Think, all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers, not just once, but numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not even want a small suffering due to mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and abandonment, they do not experience any happiness but suffering. In our mind, sincerely cultivate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were to have excellent happiness and the causes of excellent happiness that are virtues. May they have excellent happiness and its causes. I will cause them to have excellent happiness and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so.
What is it too much in the town? The way that the major you are what the Shin, Lama, so. What does it mean?
Next, we cultivate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from all sufferings and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. May they be free from all suffering and its causes. I will cause them to be free from all sufferings and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so.
What do I know? The town to call the nation will do Kusula to Yerala project that you never see how about the Sanji Van. Yet when you bust like not about the Sanji, you see the country with the Sanji to not remove the Jimmy at the shower. What does it never in the Chinese say?
Next, we cultivate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves who should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms. I should take the responsibility. Even though I should take the responsibility, I do not have the ability to place them in the state of perfect, complete enlightenment now. Who has such ability? Those perfect, complete Buddhas have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. the self, and the aggregates neither exist as inherently one nor as inherently different, thus is empty of inherent existence. Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this, I will listen to the holy teaching and practice properly in order to benefit sentient beings. The outline is its drawbacks. So it talks about the drawbacks of pride. So under this outline, there are two verses, verse 57 and the first two lines of verse 58. They say, inflated by afflicted pride, I shall be led by pride to the bad migrations. It destroys the joyous festival of being human. I shall become a slave, eating the food of others. Stupid, ugly, feeble, and despised everywhere. Being inflated by afflicted pride has the following drawbacks. I shall be led by pride to the bad migrations. So one of the drawbacks of pride is one will be led to the bad migrations, experience all sorts of sufferings in hell and etc. And even if I were to reborn as a human, so even if one were free from the bad migrations and were to reborn as a human being for a very short duration, so one will experience lots of mental unhappiness and the like, and will destroy the joyous festival of being human. Yeah, so one will not experience much happiness, but all sorts of suffering. So even one will be lacking of food, and one will live by begging due to being controlled by others. I shall be a slave eating the food of others. So here, due to pride, then one will experience the drawbacks of one will experience unhappiness, one will experience much suffering, and one will be born as a mute, one will be born as ugly, and even with faults or faults on our body. And then stupid in mind, ugly in form. So these are the drawbacks of pride, and physically and verbally despised everywhere by others, even though I have done no explicit harm. So even if I have not done any harm to others, others will verbally and physically despise me. So I should therefore abandon the pride of an inflated mind. The outline is, it is appropriate to abandon pride. Under this outline is the next three lines of verse 58. It says, though people inflated by pride are also included among those having pride, tell me what is the inferior like? Ninje wange ne poba chimbo de ro ngagi chimbo jensa de
ngagi chimbo jensa da ngagi nyemu ki ngagi de lo ro nyemu dia nyemu la pa nyemu dia ge de ki poba ye de ngagi de lo ro
ngagi la nyemu ten tenge de so
ngagi la nyemu tenge poba la temba de de lo ngaba ye de ngagi lo ro ngaba ye de ngagi chimbo de la tanga ka de ngagi wo le de.
So if those minds are inflated and influenced by afflicted pride, and those with hardships due to their minds being under the control of others, were to be included among those having great pride who are worthy of praise. So having great pride means that those having great pride refers to those who apply antidotes to antidote. So here it says, if those whose minds are inflated and influenced by afflicted pride, and those with hardships due to their minds being under the control of others, were to be included among those having great pride, then tell me what other inferior thing that is an object of compassion is there. It is inappropriate to have the pride that has come under the power of the enemy. So here, the first part of this explanation, it says that were to be included among those having great pride. So the answer is no. So they are those whose minds are inflated and influenced by afflicted pride are not to be included within those having great pride. Next outline is the benefits of the antidotal pride. The benefits of the antidotal pride. Under this outline is verse 59. It says, whoever sees pride in order to conquer the enemy of pride, he is the one having pride, the victorious hero. Whoever definitely destroys the rampage of this enemy of pride completes the results of a victor in accordance with the wishes of migrating beings.
하다 밀어서 같은 이게 누가라 기타 대바나 신내가 다도 여인 저건 트레이더 제바 참아 도바시 됐어 와 도바시 네 도바시 네 녀무도 잘 넘버 잡아서자 여기 나자 세요 녀무도 잘 넘버 잡아서자 잘 나자 됐어 어디에 있다.
So question, what is one having pride? So the questions here, what is one having pride? So pride here refers, in this context, he refers to the antidotal pride. Antidotal pride. So what is one having the antidotal pride? So response, whoever sees the pride that serves as the antidote in order to conquer the enemy of pride is called one having pride. So in the response, it says, whoever sees the pride that serves as an antidote in order to conquer the enemy of pride is called the one having pride. So here in the questions, what is one having pride? And this pride, in this context, it refers to the antidotal pride. So due to the greater strength of the antidote and the hero who is victorious over the enemy is just him. So this is because whoever definitely destroys from the root the rampage of this enemy of the pride of inflated mind completes the temporal and the final result of a victor, along with the exalted activities in accordance with the wishes of migrating beings, including the gods. So the wishes of migrating beings such as gods and humans. So whereby he is referred to as victorious over the enemy. So because so it is called victorious over the enemy because what is one having pride refers to those who are victor over the enemy of pride. Next outline is generating the power of antidote to afflictions. Under this outline is verse 60. It says, when amidst a class of afflictions, I shall be persistent with them in 1,000 ways. Like a lion among foxes and the like, I will not be injured by the host of afflictions.
없지. 선배가 지투고 말이야. 지금부터 들리지. 너무 전부 해서 봐.
When amidst a class of afflictions such as anger, if they abide, I shall be persistent with them through the strength of antidotes of 1,000 types of different methods. So, when amidst a class of afflictions such as anger, attachment, and if they abide, I shall be persistent. I shall be persistent with them through the strength of antidotes of 1,000 types of different methods. Means that I will apply the antidotes. I will be patient. I will develop the patience of accepting the hardships of abandoning and adopting. So abandoning the afflictions and adopting the antidotes to those afflictions. And for example, like a lion not being injured by foxes and the like, similarly, I will not be injured by the host of afflictions. So, and those foxes and the like, then is an analogy of afflictions. And then if foxes and the like were to fight with lions, so lions here is an analogy of antidotes. So even if those foxes of afflictions were to fight with the lions of antidotes, then similarly I will not be injured by the host of afflictions. So those foxes cannot fight with the lion. So if we develop a strong, powerful antidotes, then these foxes will be the lions of antidotes will overcome the foxes of afflictions, and those foxes are unable to make any disturbances. So similarly, I will not be injured by the host of afflictions if I develop a strong, powerful antidote.
다 디오는 님바데 다 대원도 중세장하면 좋았다. 맞아도 중세장하면 디된다 식으로 다 대대 어떤 지금은 그래서 양압 최대 সং절점 매일 수화다 대신 양의 সং절점 영웅왕도 먼저 샤하세 디시로 가지고 어디마 디시스.
Yeah. So next outline is not changing even in the slightest due to its influence. So due to its influence, it's referred to pride. So not changing even in the slightest due to its influence. Under this outline is verse 61. Then it says, just as men will guard their eyes in the occurrence of great danger, likewise I shall not come under the power of the afflictions, even when danger occurs.
다 되게 대단되는 거야. 다 간다 신진 내봐다 지발라서 되게 양아 첨부지 그와 지발 첨부지 중앙 이나야 그와 다 신진 내봐 진리 들리베 지발 첨부 현아 첨부 제바지 중바 이나야 다들라 파리 바 가르친 것은 제제 가르치고 되나시 가르치면서 라고 민지를 시만 하시와 다 가서 나지랑 가서 도 사사다 배 세모 들리지 로바이나 수수가라서 도도 시부도 남서 미케우야 가서 미테페 미를 키르스 두 왕사 미케 두스키야 나디디 여러 와치다 맞아 상 도나 유사나보다 나지 들리지 유사는 레디 남사 소속에 뭐가 미니 교구라 남사로 와 되게 봐도 지금 미를 제제 시부 제거해서 다 미강하는 맞아 미식 제제 제거도 와 대제 제바 나시 소나시 로라 소나시 다 얘기도 대소와기도 다 명무도 나자 잡보다 명무도 휴全部지 받은 거라 캐든 디지페 또 제부지 영무서 휴체부지 정말 이나야 그봐 근데 정말 이나 다 가르치면서 다 전부다 힘 지대 그봐 제시 때문부터니 다 님뭐 또지야 야 님뭐 또지는 문제 좀 님부터 잘 중세자야 좀 돼야지 중세자는 좀 돼야지 근 제시 지 님부터 해서 그봐 전부다 힘 배 하자 로 당부지 또 진지 해서 되다 당가서 미지대 제가 다시 보러 되셔
Just as men will guard their eyes with great care, even in the occurrence of great danger. So, for example, if one is in a situation like there are many dust or stones coming down, then we will try to take care of we will guard our bodies and especially the eyes. So it shows that how great the care to our eyes. So we will protect our eyes more than the other part of our body. So that is of the great fears of the afflictions. So when afflictions brings great fears, bring great harms and etc. Then just as a man, they will guard their eyes, will protect their eyes with great care. So likewise, I shall not come under the power of the afflictions, even when the danger of being on the verge of coming under the influence of the afflictions occur. So when one is about to fall under the control of afflictions, then one should focus. One should apply. One should intently apply the antidotes of. One should intently focus one's mind with mindfulness and introspections and apply antidotes to afflictions. Next outline is generating the antidote, a special stable attitude. Generating the antidote, a special stable attitude. Under this outline is verse 62. It says, "It would be better for me to be burned, to be killed, or to have my head cut off, rather than bowing down to the enemy of afflictions. Likewise, in all situations, I should do nothing other than what is fit." The criterion for a stable antidote is as follows. It would be better for me to be burned by fire, to be killed, or to have my head cut off, rather than bowing down to the enemy of afflictions. So the way of cultivating the antidotes to afflictions should be stable. So it should be stable, and it shouldn't, and our applications of antidotes shouldn't be like a tree that moves by the wind. So that when the wind moves in these directions, then the tree also bends in that directions. When moves, blows in another directions, and the tree also bends to another directions. So our applications of antidote shouldn't be like a tree moved by the wind. So it means that the applications of antidote must be stable, and even if we need to undergo the hardships of being burned by fire, getting killed or having our head cut off and etc., then we shouldn't bowing down to the enemy of afflictions. It means that we shouldn't follow the afflictions. So we shouldn't fall under the control of afflictions, or we shouldn't follow the afflictions. Or another way of saying this is we shouldn't associate ourselves with the afflictions. And then likewise, in all situations, I should do nothing other than what is fit, acting to destroy the objects of abandonment and to rely upon the antidotes. So even if we undergo such hardships, then we shouldn't we shouldn't hold grudges in our mind, and then we should be patient. We should generate the patience of accepting these hardships in applying the antidotes to afflictions. So likewise, then in all situations, then I should do nothing other than what is fit, which is acting to destroy the objects of abandonment and relies upon the antidotes. Next outline is striving in virtue without concern for the ripening results. Under this outline is verse 63. It says, just like those who desire the pleasurable result of play, this Bodhisattva adheres to whatever task he may do. He is not satiated by it. It makes him happy. So just like children who desire the pleasurable result of play, this Bodhisattva adheres to whatever task he may do for others' welfare, such as hearing, contemplating, and meditating on the minds of enlightenment. Doing it enthusiastically, he is not satiated by the task due to the wish that it does not discontinue. It makes him happy. So just like children who desire the pleasurable result of play. So here it says that bodhisattvas, unlike children who desire the pleasurable result of play. So for children, they play and then they enjoy the pleasures, and then once they feel that it no longer brings them any happiness, then they will stop the play. So however, bodhisattvas are not like the children who stops once they feel like the happiness has degenerated. So these bodhisattvas adheres to whatever task he may do for others' welfare. And here, even though he used the word adheres, and here adheres here it does not refer to the attachment kinds of adherence. So it's not the adherence of attachment, so or clinging adherence. So here adheres refers to the joyful and enthusiastic, the joyful kind and the enthusiastic kinds of adherence. So it means that bodhisattvas, no matter how many tasks they engage in for the welfare of others, such as hearing, contemplating, and meditating on the minds of enlightenment, they do it joyfully and enthusiastically and without satiation. So he is not satiated by the task. So this is what the word adheres refer to. So they do it, they engage in those activities without satiation, and they engage in it joyfully and enthusiastically. So due to the wish that it does not discontinue, it makes him happy. Next outline is taking the result to mind and accomplishing virtue. Under this outline is verse 64. It says, although people work in order to be happy, it is uncertain whether or not they will be happy. But how can those whose work itself is happiness find happiness without doing the work?
So 간다 다 리셋 데이트도 나오게 좋아하기로 있는다 간다 리셋 데이트도 된다 수소 내가리아 신가라서 봐 내가리아보다 총재보다 다 수소 내가 가르쳐 봐이나 다 수소 좋아 데이트도 와 좋아 리셋 데이트도 간다 리셋 전도 와 이제 참아도야 도야 리셋 데이트도 다 힘들어서 마부지 지구요레스 다들 제발 수소 깔리지는 단도 지구한테 토야긴데 와 이나 깔리지면 전도 내거를 단도 제부터 용의 대성사시가 깔리슈 전부 지구였어 대성사고였어 와 대소산에 아니 뭐네 전에게 다두고 내가 돼 차바는 이제부터 따따로 라샤이나 가리나 희내이나 희내게 이제부터 따따로 나서 땅갈 봐 희내 지갈 봐 쓰다고 한다 땅갈 봐 쓰다네 그러니까 저 오토지에 되세요 아니 뭐네 이제부터 아무나 희내로 와 대소로 와 뜻벌을 제 마모이고 와제 마모이고 나 정례이나 자가래 그래서 백깔이 이제 슈 제고요래 미스가 지나서서 빼줘야 그 속에서 손에 당자 제고요래 그러니까 계속 아무나 희내 대소로 와 대소로 다 내가 나시로 걸어와 대 빼려잖아요. 내가 말을 가서 저 띵디들 아무나 내봐요 말이지. 와 내봐요 말. 다 장주심 자 장주심 비춰봐라 팀 같아. 장주심 바이나 한다. 장주심 비자시 비춰봐라 팀이 그 대상 고서 지냐니 간디지 제바이나 간디지 제바이나 때때리 제부터라 다 같이 지야서 도야 자원이네 요 말. 태소상 말이지. 태소 버서요 말. 와 대상 고서 지냐니 계승직 저다 간디지 두바이나 이제 자체자 이어스다. 제비 제셔자 요래 될라 파종로야다 때문에 차로야다 데 제비도 유나무 계속 사고 되니까 지요 말이야 뭐 된리 매봐 son자 다 된리 대상고지 전주심이 쪄봐서 전주심이 쪄봐서 다 냐네게 다이 대화 될 하서 가와요 다 될라 냐스문에 가와리스 뭐 리다비 대화 가와리스 보다 대화 좀 있어 이리와 어디래다 당가서 대성자 요 말이다 된다 이리와
Although worldly beings work in the fields and so forth in order to be happy physically and mentally, it is uncertain whether or not the result of that will be happiness, and it is not definite they will obtain happiness. So with the analogy of worldly beings, they work in the fields, or they go to office, or they do business and etc. So they work in order to earn a livelihood. So for the sake of the mental and physical and mental happiness. So all of us, we put in effort in work and business and etc. in all for the sake of physical and mental happiness. However, it is uncertain that one will gain the results or not. So just like one sow the seeds in the field in the autumn or in the spring and etc. So however, whether or not one will whether or not one will harvest the crops or not, then is not sure. So because in between the sowing and also the harvesting, then there are so many conditions that could happen in between. So similarly, it is the same for doing business as well. Whether or not one will gain profits or not, it is uncertain. However, so the text says, but how can the bodhisattvas whose work itself is definitely happiness, temporarily and finally, find happiness without doing such work? So such happiness will not arise. So however, for bodhisattvas who engage in activities such as listening, contemplating, and contemplation and meditation for the sake of others, so there is no doubt, undoubtedly, those bodhisattvas will experience the result. They will gain the results, and these results, so 100% they will gain this result, and there is it is certain that they will gain this result. Under the same outline, verse 65, it says, if I'm not satiated by desirable objects, which are like honey smeared upon a razor's edge, then why am I satiated by merit, which is ripening and pacification in happiness? If no matter how much of cycle existence I utilize, I am not satiated by desirable objects such as forms and sounds, which are like the experience of experiencing with the tongue the slight taste of honey smeared upon a razor's edge, followed by experiencing the sufferings of getting one's tongue cut, then why am I satiated by merits such as generosity, the cause that acts to obtain the final happiness of the pacifications of happiness? Pacifications of all suffering in happiness by way of obtaining the special high status of gods and humans, the temporal ripening result. I should cultivate myself in not being satiated by merit. So here, with the example of no matter how much of cycle existence I utilize, I'm not satiated by these desirable objects in cycle existence, such as beautiful forms, such as pleasant sounds, so which are like experiencing the tongue, such as the tongue experiences a slight taste of honey smeared upon a very sharp razor's edge, and then followed by experiencing the sufferings of one's tongue being cut. So then, using this as an analogy, so here with this analogy illustrates that one is not satiated, even though with this analogy of one's tongue being cut by the razor's edge, one still wants to enjoy the taste of honey. Then with this as an analogy, so that one is not satiated by this experience of the taste of honey. Then similarly, then why am I satiated by merits such as generosity? So similarly, one's shouldn't be satiated by merit or the activities or virtuous activities such as generosity, the cause that acts to obtain the final, the temporal happiness and also the final happiness. So I should cultivate myself in not being satiated by merit.
lede lion dupa chase that show what you know
under this outline is under the outlines of the modes of applying the power of joy. The modes of applying the power of joy. Under this outline is verse 66. It says, thus, in order to complete this task, I should engage in it, just as an elephant tormented at midday enters into a lake.
that big tender karzana kanda yempi to be late at our and jupas tender there were shingi shimpi to be late at our dupalango sam roa shimpi to be late to shawachi kari and go sam the ning go sam sadi de late dupala tashibat but tashibat tashiba shay chido tashiba shala susu gato gawada toa kari chego the tender the bishota tambo yempi to be late to go sam then go sam the pe that yede to be late la pa 샤와테 방고 총사디 판준 타시바텔라 투아 칸디시체 그래 다데 페트레 뭐 투아 칸디치 다 투아데 페나 아세 다 페나 니마 시비 디스와 니마 시지 디스 다 하자 차바다 공바다 하자 페 제공베 하장 치거라 또 랑부치와 니게 페 하자 공원 페 하자 치거라 데벤소 장소 페 하장 장와다 당와다 페 데리 힌두글 엄마다 데바 힌두기 로마다 템바 덴디기페 자조데파 미기 통오데파 소소게 생을 도와다 가와치가 덴디시 소초자마 덴디기 통오데 때때라파 람보치 하자 가와다 쪼이 돈에 된 소데가 주도 와스치가 와 데스 폴리타치 인주도 와 다때 베 대나시 다 이게 신지지 되도바라 지도게 샤와네데 고 정차이들 된 타시바라 데 랑치데 소는 주바나시 가와다 쪼이 돈에 주고 해서 타시바
I should engage in such a task. Thus, in order to complete the intended task that was undertaken, I shall engage in that task of the heroic-minded, just as an elephant tormented by heat and thirst at midday, when encountering a lake, enthusiastically enters into the lake. So, in order to complete the activities or the actions that will bring benefits to others, which have been undertaken. So how do we develop joy and enthusiasm in doing it? How do we develop joy and enthusiasm in relation to it? So then, with the analogy of in the midday or in the afternoon, then an elephant is tormented, is very thirsty and is very hot, and then this elephant sees a lake. The lake, the water was very clean, clear, and then is under the shades of a big tree. So when this elephant sees this lake, then this elephant will enters into this lake joyfully and enthusiastically. So similar to this analogy, bodhisattvas, in order to complete the actions of accomplishing others' benefit, which have been undertaken, then they will engage in these activities or these actions joyfully and enthusiastically.
나서버와 안장 문진에 이 샤와라 또아치네 공제다 뭐 정말 신의 공부가 뜻을 넘어와 아주 신의 공부 방법에 제정부 좀 공부이나 다 공내 맞게 받아 신경에서 받지 마고 이거와 근데 영화 순자 다 상하고 해서 또 신의 공부와 그만 같이 상하 대나시로 거와 그래서 이 샤와 간디지 두바이나 근데 다 체제보다 제가 맞을 것 같아요 다 체도지는 상하고 있어 그 차샤의 가서는 문진이就是양자 이 샤와로 좀 마셔야 되더와 문진이 나도 너도 니바 만나봐 문진이 누가 제치도 다른 시간에 가는 탕체는 봐 샤고를 해서 다 된다데
자리에 니바 건다
나래잖아 니바 만나봐 니바데 문진이 되어야지 문진이 양자 나네 제트야 디체도 그러다 나서는 상샤고 해서 답에 탕 하자지 이상 제자서는 다 제일 준 자원이 나네 제대 말해봐다 샤와 간지 눈대 말에 어떻게 차고 어디 많이 벌써 그래서 그래 힘내가 봐 상상이 그래 지대고 그래서 다 간다 가라 신보다 자신보 등은 누구 해서
So so under the outlines of the temporary relinquishment, under this outline is the first two lines of verse 67. It says, when my strength is related to degeneration, I should leave whatever I'm doing in order to return to it. So here it talks about the temporary relinquishment. So the meaning of these two lines is, when my strength is related to degeneration due to physical and mental fatigue through making effort in virtue, I should rest and leave whatever I'm doing for the time being in order to return to it. Having rested, I should undertake it once again. So in the context of calm abiding, which was previously discussed, so in the Lamrim text, in the Lamrim subject, so when we talk about cultivating calm abiding, so so then so we should pause the session. So we shouldn't meditate until we feel physical until our physically and mentally feel very tired or feel very fatigued, that to the extent that we don't feel like we don't feel like doing that meditations anymore. We don't feel like entering another sessions. So or when there are obstacles in our meditative sessions, then it is good to pause our meditation sessions, and then we can go for a tea, then enjoy a cup of delicious tea. Then after rest for a while, then you re-enter the meditative session. So similar to this, and when we engage in activities, then we shouldn't engage in those activities until we feel very tired. Then only we pause the activities or pause the session. Because if you were to do so, then you don't feel like doing that activities anymore, those virtuous activities anymore, and then you are too tired to do it anymore. You are too tired to re-enter or engage in those activities. So when you're about to feel that you are tired already, then you should pause the session, then rest for a while, then re-enter the session. So and the purpose of resting for a while is to so that you can continue to engage in those practice.
간다 토마 강성비 기레지 토마 기레지 간다 샤와 간디는 고상으로와 예 고상에 이 예대 봐 소소게 봐 내가 따다지 중바시 기레 샤와 봐 레버지 중바지로와 레버지 중 먼저 진발로 또 와 진발로서 봐 드리지 당에 고상 봐이나 이 신비 이 다고 이 신비 냥이하고 이 제바지 나 신비 냥이하고 제차디 또 당한 리소사 소소에 몸바 매봐 로와 대 원에 단 리소사 된 상샤 상샤네 아땡이네 야고 싶지 중소스 상샤 어다 된지가 말해서 요와 된지가 말해 내가 마시네 심마 고상고 해서 와 랑게 또바디야 림바지도 공별도 다 신비 샤와다 냐니 야고 치네 다랑사 사자는 신바디 꼴 야고 싶지 중소 산에 소소 몸바지네 샤야 말 다이 랑사 대이제 가른 고상거든 다 수리 신바지 수리와 다 수리 고상 수준에서 다 쇠바라서 맞는데 림바기는 고자네 야 또바리 마기한 로아시다 고창거마다 나마들라 조시치네 대샤 단 디수사 대샤요 말해서 당아서 땡도와서 데려마다 야 제수 문티네 신비ኛ네 제초고마 제고마네 야 수준ኛ네 제세야 제고마세 드리게자 말해 맞아 실카도 땡도와서 들려 주는 것도 봐 데코로 돼 말해 맞아 자와가마 비 샤와 인고창바이나 대야고 레바지 루투바이나 단 디수사 된 상상이 돼야 말했어. 상상이 돼야 말했어. 양자 문티네 대인리야 또바 공부하데 공부도 놓아지데 심한테 고상 그래서. 당아서 파시도나 내가 나시 맞잖아. 지금.
지마이네 대양 대레바 두와이나 이니 디 참샤 이니 대양 베디 참샤 마레 이니 디 담보 대제라 이니 디 추팀디 양 냠린체 이니 대제라 대 양자 대양 디 지마 냠린체 그거 얘네 베디 참샤 되네.
그래서 막 대전은 땡도 와서 그래서 이제는 아시도
So next outline is the utter relinquishment. the utter relinquishment. So even though the outline is the utter relinquishment, however, it doesn't mean that you relinquish it totally or completely. So then I will explain. So even though the outline is the utter relinquishment. So the meaning of the next two lines of verse 67 under this outline. If something is finished well, I should put it aside with the wish for more and more later. So the word is these two lines, it says, if something is finished well, I should put it aside with the wish for more and more later. So if something is finished well, I should finish it with the wish for more and more later tasks. That is, more and more other tasks, and then put it aside. So if you read these two lines or the commentary, then if you were to interpret it as if you finish a practice well, for example, a practice of generosity, then you put it aside. Put it aside means that you will not engage in the practice of generosity anymore, or or as the outline suggested, utter relinquishment, you completely stopped it, then this is not a correct interpretation of these two lines or the explanations. So if something is finished well, so for example, the practice of generosity, you finish it well, then you put it aside so with the wish to engage in it again and again later. So when you practice generosity well, then you put it aside, then you engage in the practice of morality. So you gradually or respectively engage in those practices of six perfections, for example. Then with the wish to engage in the practice of generosity again. So when you pause the practice of generosity, then you pause with the wish to engage in it later. Or in order to increase the realizations of the practice or realizations of the quality. So in order to increase them in the future, so then you pause it in order to engage in them again and again in the future. Then you respectively or you gradually engage in the next task or next practice, such as a practice of morality. Then again, after you gradually practice. So you practice accordingly. Then again, you practice the generosity. It doesn't mean that utter relinquishment is like you practice generosity well, then you've totally stopped it. So it's not like that. Next outline is being diligent in conscientiousness. Under this outline is verse 68. He says, just as a seasoned soldier engages in a fencing battle with the enemy, so shall I avoid the weapons of the afflictions and attack the enemies that are the afflictions. So just as a seasoned soldier, someone who is skilled in tasks with weapons and in combat with the enemy, engages in a fencing battle with the enemy, he avoids the weapons and attacks the enemy with his own weapons. So shall I avoid the weapons of the afflictions and turn them away and destroy the thoughts of afflictions and attacks the enemy that are the afflictions with the weapons of the antidotes and eradicate them from the foot. So the analogy here is whether is in the fighting in the war, or when you combat with the enemy. So when you combat with the enemy, then there are two things to be kept in mind, right? One is you need to attack the enemies, and the second one is you need to dodge the attack from the opponent. So then, like for example, in a fight or in a wrestling, then and you also need to be careful. At this at one on one hand, you need to attack the enemy, and on the another hand, then you also need to protect yourself, protect your limbs from being caught by the enemy, from being caught by the opponents. Because if they were to hold on, if they were to hold tight to your limbs, your hands, your legs, and etc., then they will be able to put you down, to throw you over, right? So to throw you on the ground and etc. So similar to this idea, at one point on one hand you need to attack the enemies, and on the other, so you need to protect yourself or you need to dodge the attack. So when we deal with afflictions, so we need to protect ourselves or without being harmed by the afflictions, and also we need to apply antidotes to counteract those afflictions. So in this way, then we will not fall under the control of afflictions. Next outline is striving in mindfulness and introspection. Under this outline is verse 69. It says, if someone dropped his sword during a battle, he would quickly pick it up out of fear. Likewise, if I lose the weapon of mindfulness, afraid of hell, I should quickly retrieve it. So therefore, when combating with afflictions, just as if someone's sword were to fall from his hands when fighting during a battle, he would quickly pick it up out of fear of being killed by others. So when we combat with enemy, then if our swords were to fall from our hand, then we will quickly pick it up, right? So because out of fear that the enemies will attack us at that time. So likewise, if I lose the weapon of mindfulness that does not forget the virtuous objects of observation, I will be destroyed by the afflictions and be reborn in hell. So therefore, hence, I should quickly retrieve the antidote through mindfulness and introspection that remembers the fear of hell. So similarly, if strong afflictions such as attachment, hatred, ignorance were to arise due to conditions, due to meeting with conditions, then we should rely on mindfulness, and we should quickly rely on mindfulness and introspection, and then apply antidotes to those afflictions. Next outline is mindfulness and introspection do not provide the opportunity for faults. So in other way of saying this is mindfulness and introspection do not open the way for faults. So under this outline is verse 70. It says, just as poison spreads throughout the body in dependence upon the blood, likewise, if it finds an opportunity, misdeeds will permeate my mind. So just as when the body is shot by a poisonous arrow, the poison spreads throughout the body in dependence upon the blood in the blood vessels. Likewise, if the afflictions finds an opportunity due to the degenerations of mindfulness and the like, misdeeds such as anger will permeate my mind. Thus, I should turn away even the slightest affliction. So it means that we shouldn't provide an opportunity for faults. In other ways, you shouldn't provide a place for them to stay. You shouldn't provide a place for afflictions to stay. So it's just like you do not in a house, and you do not provide seat, the chairs and etc. Then there is no place to sit, right? So similar to this, you do not provide any place for them to stay or for them to dwell in a house. Then for affliction, you do not provide a place for afflictions to dwell. So. Then with the analogy of an arrow, so no matter how small an arrow, and no matter how small an arrow is, and no matter how small a portions of poison, then if we do not neutralize the arrow or neutralize the poison, if we do not remove the arrow, then these poisons will slowly permeate throughout our body. So similarly. Another analogy is a bushfire. So if when there is a fire in the bush or in the forest, then if you quickly put it off, then it's very easy to put it off. It's very easy to put it off a small bushfire. And if you do not do anything and let it becomes a very huge scale of a bushfire or forest fire, then it's very difficult to put it off. So similarly, when afflictions arises, or when afflictions when afflictions arises, then we should quickly apply antidotes to counteract, to stop, or to abandon them. So if not, when afflictions become stronger and stronger, then it will become very difficult to eradicate them.
Radi Tobi Tungede, Bona, Sedi Jipatar, Tushuchi, the Dips, or that the Shulawachim Timothy Showings.
So under the same outline, before verse 71, then it says there is a question: how should I be attentive, or how should I focus my mind? And then then after these questions is verse 71. It says, just as a man carrying a jar full of mustard oil in the presence of someone wielding a sword, who is being threatened that he will be killed if he spills it, will be frightened. Likewise, those who have the modes of conduct should be attentive.
ko nebaji chachimuji tindi sanju china da ko soto yoba ina ya da li midela da peshane midela kanda hoba kana magu kan lu da magu lu ne da chino pa komba ja su komba ja sen dishos komba ja da de pa komba je su komba ja de la yombe kala magu tiba ji shilo la lona de lansa de zale ji de menda kune de lansa chlo series lansa series hoba ina da ko ri patini da magu de shilo ma ta pa komba ja su komba ja le wa ina 다 리포트니 제로와 다뭐 리포트 말이나 코 파카도 맨다데 순대로와 이랑서 쇠로와 다 대낭시로 다 배대낭시 다 님무비 카테자라 그 장주 세라서 봐라 네 수속이 냥이 관리지 제교나 신이 보고 있는다 로와 동반이 보고 있는다 장주 세 보고 있는다 아무니 리포트니 코 문디쇼도 마요하기 리포트니 보고 그래서 대 공화이나 대생아 공발리니 또 공발리네 간사데 님무가 소리 수사와 님이 도 봐이 이 비스고와 레바이는 너무 같이 레바이나 내지마도 차는 그래서와 어디 리바드 그래서 되나들 리바드 님보라 문시라 같이자.
Response: just as if a man were made to carry a jar full of mustard oil and to walk on a slippery road in the presence of someone wielding a sword while being threatened that he will be killed if he spills just one drop, frightened of being killed, he will make an effort to be attentive. Likewise, those who have the Bodhisattva's modes of conduct, holding antidotes such as the minds of enlightenment through mindfulness and introspection, should be attentive. So this verse talks about how do we focus our mind, or how to be attentive when applying antidotes. So then, with the analogy of a sinful man, for example, who have committed negative actions, who have committed negative actions, and then he was made to carry a jar full of mustard oil or full of butter, and then the soldier asked him to walk to and from, and then to walk over in the directions of the soldier, and this soldier carries a sword or carries a gun with him, and if that sinful man were to spill even a drop of that mustard oil or butter, and then this soldier will immediately kill the sinful man. So this sinful man will carry this jar full of mustard oil or butter with a very focused mind, right? So very attentively, very intently carry this jar in order not to spill even a drop of oil or butter. So similarly, when the bodhisattvas, when they engage in activities such as cultivating bodhicitta, or meditating on emptiness, loving kindness, and etc., they should intently or attentively engage in those actions so that those discordant class will not arise. And even if those discordant class were to arise, then with the attentive mind, then they will be protected from harm caused by those discordant class. Next outline is immediately turning back turning back immediately after the occurrence of faults. Turning back immediately after the occurrence of faults. Under this outline is verse 72. It says, therefore, just as I would hastily stand up if a snake came into my lap, likewise, if any sleep or indolence occur, I should quickly turn them back. If my virtues are overcome by afflictions, then I will proceed to hell. So if my virtues are if my virtues are overcome by afflictions, then I will proceed to hell. Therefore, just as I would hastily stand up if a poisonous snake suddenly came into my lap, likewise, if any sleep, a powerless withdrawing of the engaging consciousness, or indolence occurs, then I shall quickly turn it back out of fear of the hells. So when afflictions arises, then we should quickly contemplate the drawbacks or the faults of those afflictions, and then we should, such as going to hell and etc. Then we should quickly apply antidotes to those afflictions, just as the analogy of analogy of a poisonous snake suddenly coming into my lap. So then we would immediately get up or try all sorts of methods to get rid of that snake, right? So similarly, when afflictions arises, then we should apply antidotes, or we should by all means eradicate those afflictions. And then, like, if any sleep, for example, sleep or indolence or laziness, or if we were to fall under the control of discordant class, a class discordant with Dharma, then we should quickly apply antidotes to turn it away.
단도 대다 세당시 수다라 좋았다니 단도 처럼 들이와서 엄마 나시때 내가 대소관다 내용과 대소관다 누구이 매 수술로 메라탄이 좋았다만 나시와 수술로 메라탄이 리치기 메스 와 대달라 엄마한테 디강에 계사로 와서 단도 강에 체체 메스 와 단도 강에 체체 메스 때 강에 체체 아니나 대달라 디시 내바도 먼저 치도 되게 시원한 거 같아 그래서 계산 고생 많이 잡고 됐어 와 예시원 많이 잡고 됐어 왜냐하면 제법 마치 와서 님보 도시도네 간다 샤도 제바이나 너무 싸차고 내가 쓰도 다 두그레스 시소 내바 마사야 다 님보 도시 때는 누가 그랬어 제 몽바나 내바 마사 때는 누가 나 싸싱비 내바이나 싸와니네 다음에 내바 그랬어 누가 그랬어 누가 와 님보 도시 때는 어디다 들이쳐 그랬어.
Under the same outline, verse 73, it says, each time a misdeed occurs, I should deride myself and then contemplate for a long time. No matter what, I shall not let this happen in the future. So in relation to this verse, there is a question, how should I turn it back? how should I turn those afflictions back? In response to these questions, each time a misdeed occurs, I should deride myself, saying, due to having acted like this in the past, I have obtained various undesirables and failed to obtain what I desire. Am I still acting like this? And then contemplate for a long time. No matter what, I shall make effort to not let this misdeed happen in the future. So, so when misdeed occurs, then we should think about the faults of these misdeeds, or the faults of these afflictions, and faults such as I will experience all those undesirables, and I will not gain any desirables. So then, then when afflictions or misdeed occurs, then we should question ourselves. We should deride ourselves or criticize ourselves through asking ourselves, am I going to continue to act like in this way? Am I going to let afflictions control me? So then deride ourselves in this way through asking ourselves these questions, and then and contemplate for a long time. Then we should engage. We should put effort in those practice. We should put effort in those practice, and so we should put effort in those practice, and also we need to apply the antidotes. We need to cultivate the four opponent powers. So through the cultivations of four opponent powers, so not only will it purify the negativities or misdeeds that we have accumulated in the past, it will also prevent us from accumulating those misdeeds again in the future. Under this outline, next outline is striving in appropriate actions. Under this outline is verse 74. It says, likewise, in all situations, I shall acquaint myself with mindfulness. With this cause, I shall wish for encounters or appropriate actions. With this cause, that is the motivation thinking, likewise, in all situations of being diligent in conscientiousness and introspection, for the sake of not allowing misdeeds to arise and of dispelling those that have arisen, I shall acquaint myself with mindfulness. So, so this outline is striving in appropriate actions, right? So it means that we should engage, we should perform those actions that would we should perform those worthy virtuous actions. We should perform those worthy virtuous actions. So, and the purpose of doing so is to not allow misdeeds to arise in the future, and also to dispel those misdeeds or those misdeeds or faults that have already arisen. So then we should engage in those activities that are worthy to perform. And yeah, so then I shall wish for encounters with Mahayana spiritual teachers, or even if I cannot meet them immediately, I shall wish for the meaning of instructions and teachings and for appropriate and correct actions. So, the kunong ina tiang kiwisin ngo su chibi kapla ni nga so di
kalop de ge ni ngo su chibi kala long to jine kar de na de ga ro so so nya la ta ji ji ya a ngo su ma che ba ina da ngar pe ge ni ma dang ba yo ro dang ga yo ro so so ma la ja ji wo to so ya ji su de so ya ji su de nya ni ja mo yes.
So I shall wish for encounters with Mahayana spiritual teachers. Means that we should generate these motivations. If I encounters with Mahayana spiritual teachers or spiritual friends, then I should engage respectively in relation to those objects of adoptions and objects of abandonment according to the advice given by our spiritual teachers. And even if I cannot meet them immediately, or even if I cannot meet them directly, then I should recollect those advice or those instructions, and then abandon those discordant class and practice those concordant class. Next outline is rising with lightness in virtue due to physical and mental pliancy. Rising with lightness in virtue due to physical and mental pliancy. So in other words, is lightening the arousal to virtue due to physical and mental pliancy. So under this outline is verse 75. It says, in order to have strength for all, I should recall before undertaking any actions the advice on conscientiousness, thus, and then rise with lightness. Yeah. So in order to have strength for all, I should recall before undertaking any actions the advice on conscientiousness dust, and then rise with lightness. So this verse, the meaning of this verse is, in order to have the strength that is the power of joyous effort in all virtues. So no matter what virtuous actions that you want to engage in, then we need to depend on the power of joyous effort. Without the power of joyous effort, then we're not going to have strength to engage in virtues. So before undertaking any virtuous actions, I should recall the advice on how to rely on conscientiousness for the sake of acting thus, and then rise with lightness that is free from the fear of negative actions in doing the activity of virtue. So rise with lightness that is free from the fear of negative actions in doing the activity of virtue. So rise with lightness means that So free from the fear of negative actions in doing the activity of virtue. So that fear refers to the fear of so the fear of not being serviceable in virtue. So that fear refers to the body and mind not being serviceable in virtue. So then we need to eradicate or eliminate this fear, and then applies ourselves, and then train in Bodhisattva deeds. Train in Bodhisattva deeds with the serviceability of our mind and our body. So we need to after eradicating the fear, which is the physical and mental unserviceability in virtue, then we train in Bodhisattva deeds with the serviceable body and mind. So in other way of saying this is with the pliancy of body and mind, and with the lightness of our body and mind, we engage in the training of Bodhisattva deeds. Next outline is correlating the analogy with the meaning. Under this outline is verse 76. It says, just as the wind blowing back and forth controls a piece of cotton, so shall I be mastered by enthusiasm, and in this way I will accomplish all. So the example of this in this analogy, it mentions an example, just as a wind blowing back and forth forth controls a piece of cotton. So anything that is light, for example, a cotton and etc. So when wind blows back and forth, and then the cotton will go in that directions. So shall my body and speech be mastered by enthusiasm in virtue? And in this way, I will quickly accomplish all virtuous actions of the three doors that it. So here, with the analogy of wind blowing back and forth controls a piece of cotton, and then the meaning is my body and speech be mastered by enthusiasm in virtue. So it means that if one attains the pliancy, then my body and my speech will be mastered by enthusiasm in virtue. Then in this way, then we will be able to quickly accomplish all virtuous actions of our three doors. And so then we will be able, with the attainment of pliancy, then we will be able to engage in the virtuous virtuous actions or engage in good actions, and then we will be able to stop or eradicate those negative actions. And we engage in these activities. We engage in those activities joyfully and enthusiastically. And in order to engage in these activities enthusiastically, then we must remove or eliminate its obstacle. And its obstacle is laziness. So laziness is the one that obstructs us from engaging in those activities enthusiastically. And as it says, if one has laziness, or if laziness is present, then one will not be able to accomplish all qualities, or one will not be able to accomplish virtuous actions if laziness is present. So we must then we need to remove so we need to remove the adverse conditions or unconducive conditions of joyous effort, and then we need to generate 4 powers. And 4 powers here that are the conducive conditions, right? And these 4 powers does not refer to 4 opponent powers. And these 4 powers refer to the 4 powers that is mentioned in the context of joyous effort, which are the conducive conditions of joyous effort. And the 4 powers are a power of interest, the power of steadfastness, the power of joy, and the power of relinquishment. So these 4 powers are the conducive conditions of joyous effort. So then Geshe-la is going to explain the adverse conditions. So we have talked about the conducive conditions of joyous effort, which is the 4 powers. And then the adverse conditions are not engagement in virtuous dharma, despite seeing that one has the ability to accomplish it. And the second one is discouragement, thinking, how can I do it? So the second discouragement, thinking, how can I do it, refers to the laziness of a low self-esteem, or the laziness of despondency. Thank you. as well. So the second one is discouragement thinking, how can I do it? So it refers to the laziness of discouragement or laziness of despondency or laziness of low esteem. And also the first is of two types. So 1A, procrastination that thinks I still have time. So it refers to the laziness of procrastination. And 1B, being overwhelmed by attachment to negative activities. And this refers to the laziness of adhering to negative activities.
다 담보가 시켜질래로 된다. 담보 시켜질래로 되게 년보 시켜버려. 시켜질래 년보 가서나 다 담보 리터번 유든 지방 가서 들어와.
담보 치슈이니로 에나데 기루베이니로.
시켜질래로 들어와. 시켜왜 카테자다. 담보 년보 리터번 유든 지방에서 들어와. 이 시켜질래로 가서 시켜보다. 당가서 시켜질래로 판자 인자다 단자다 로장세 끼게 들어와. 어다 딜 카테자다 당문에 간단히네 겨와라 맞아 봐이나. 다 리드 유든 지구에서 나치 예매에서 지와. So
the first 1A should be abandoned with its antidote. So 1A refers to the laziness of procrastination. So the antidote is contemplating that the body that has been obtained will quickly disintegrate. So it relates to the concept of death and impermanence. So then if we do not practice now, then this body that we have obtained will quickly disintegrate. So then it also relates to the idea of procrastination, such as I still have time, then I'm going to practice it tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, etc.
Demi kanda shawa ngba chebe tambi chune haje chakwa thayeba demi jajo la soba mowa da jinse ba la soba da tenda be lega jinga su zemo wa lega mambo shurwa da de wa da be kise changja zone be shurwa da de yo ji zone da dile song tane da dim jigu mu shurwa da de ni wa da roba ina da shima la dunga sa chi mu ngure sa da de ba ko yesa da roba da jajo be zemo jinse la soba mambo shurwa that is so.
And the second one is being overwhelmed by attachment to negative activities, right? So this refers to the laziness of adhering to negative activities, and we need to apply the antidotes, contemplating that after dying, I will fall into the bad migrations. So means that we shouldn't spend our time, or we shouldn't waste our time in those meaningless activities, such as idle talk, such as plays and etc., games and etc. So thinking that it is inappropriate to spend our time in those meaningless activities, then we also think that if I would we also contemplate that I will experience all sorts of sufferings after dying.
Dilo kanda da kala ni sem shimba de wa shimbe leno de la ta se le song sha bu wa song de la da toja sanji ji de ta ye ba de da to mi ni se shimba ji da de ka la tong wa so sha ba pa de ne ba de da du ba mi ni shimba ji shimba ni ba de wa dan ko ji jan ta ye ba ne ko ji wan ta ye mi de ji dan ko ya de ma se mi ni shimba so da song de wa da de song ta ma wo le de mi ni mo de sha wa
공다 계시라 당연히 계시라 니베 님보세 되러
니베 되가 들려 자인 봐 저 님발 차비를 들리 자인 봐
니가 와는 니가 와 니베 님보는 담배 니베 님보는 담배去底气高他也被举引把全没被记住这下
네 니베 들라 자인 봐 니베 저 님발 차비를 들어와 저 님발 차비를 들어와 니라 간다 대메 자주 다서 제모라서 같은 거 마모지와 들라 자인 봐
Yep, sorry. So in order so the antidote to eliminate the laziness of procrastination, then the antidotes contemplating that the body that has been obtained will quickly disintegrate after dying. I will fall into the bad migrations, and the leisures and endowments are difficult to gain. And then to overcome the second type of laziness of adhering to negative activities, then we need to contemplate that the sacred Dharma is the cause of infinite joy in these and future lives, and distractions such as meaningless chatter degenerate the purpose in this life. So as mentioned just now, we shouldn't waste time in those meaningless activities such as idle talk, plays, games, and etc. And they are the source that will generate much sufferings in future lives. And also discouragement. Yeah. So then, and also discouragement is of three types. So discouragement refers to the laziness of discouragement, or it can also be translated as laziness of despondency, laziness of low esteem. So this discouragement is also of three types. So we need to I cannot take them. 宿命的点烟波宿在的了，连络宿几波的些了嘛。
桑吉托家，是吧？托家桑吉几人的，他也不大可门一样的熊巴鸡蛋，刚那东啊是下高啊，把大个做门一样的熊巴的了，你都可以叫他也把那个第一种东啊是门一样的熊巴的了送，也了送。
那种。So sorry. Also, discouragement is of three types. Not the three types not referred to the antidotes. So here, three types refers to the laziness of discouragement is of three types. So the first one is the discouragement thinking. Since the objects to be attained, the excellent qualities of a Buddha are infinite, I cannot attain them. And the second one is the discouragement thinking. I cannot accomplish the innumerable difficult deeds, such as giving my hands and legs away. And the third one is the discouragement thinking. Since I must take infinite rebirths in cycle existence, at that time I cannot bear the sufferings of cycle existence.
他当不念不得的，就托下上界的原地，他也把这大个托门一样的熊巴就了，他对了看他念不学的，他别上界中的人呢，我们别这里看他按出来嘛，看他。 都是叫啊，对，那就不得这里了，把叫人留的时候啊，这里来的，这等到专把钱呢，这刚到上去就恐怕头发的是，这都多少是吧？专把忙大把呢，是熊关要买的上去就恐怕的话，头门娘等于是熊关要买的是，对。
So as an antidote to the first, the laziness of discouragement, thinking that I'm not able to attain the Buddhahood. So then think the antidote is think it is not that those who have become Buddhas had already obtained the high paths in the past. They were just like me, and then they went to highness and to become Buddha. So it means that those past Buddhas, and then they were not Buddhas, they were not Buddha initially, and then because of not giving up joyous effort, then they attain the Buddhahood. So similarly, there is no need to feel discouraged, thinking that I'm not able to attain Buddhahood. And as an antidote to the second, so the second is the laziness of discouragement, thinking that I cannot accomplish those difficult deeds, such as giving my hands and legs away. And then the antidote is the antidotes to counteract this is through thinking that as long as I generate the discrimination that giving my body and the like is difficult to perform, so as long as I have this thought thinking that giving my body and the like away is difficult to perform, then you do not give them away at that time. So when I give them away, similar to the giving of vegetables and the like, then it will not be difficult. So it means that when you find it difficult to perform, then you do not give it away. So when you find it difficult, when you find it easy to give it away, it is like like giving away vegetables, then you perform it. So means that when you develop the pure compassions together with emptiness, the realizations of emptiness, then this giving away one's hands, legs, and etc., then it will be as easy as giving away vegetables. Then they are not difficult to perform. So the third laziness is the third discouragement, or the third type of laziness is the laziness of discouragement, thinking that I need to take infinite rebirths in cycle existence, and then I cannot bear the sufferings. I cannot bear its suffering. So in order to counteract these third types of laziness, then we need to think that bodhisattvas have abandoned negativities, whereby sufferings that are the results of negativities will not arise. And then due to the realization that the sufferings of cycle existence lack inherent existence, like illusions, there is no suffering in their mind. So then when the happiness of body and mind are developed, then even though they stay in cycle existence, there is nothing to be disheartened about. So to conclude this chapter, so in order to initially undertake the activities of listening, contemplation, and meditation, and later complete what you have undertaken, it depends on joyous effort. And what does joyous effort depend on? It depends on the condition, which is the 4 powers. So the 4 powers that we have mentioned just now. So joyous effort depends on the condition, the 4 powers. So depending on the condition, 4 powers, then we developed a joyous effort. Then we initially engage in those activities, and later complete what we have undertaken. Yeah. So and conclude this chapter is title of the chapter. Title of the chapter. So it says, this is the commentary on the 7th chapter, the chapter called Teachings on Joyous Effort, from the explanations of engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds, called The Entrance for the Children of the Conquerors. So this ends the chapter 7. So next week we're going to start chapter 8. We conclude with dedication. We dedicate these roots of virtue to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha Dharma, illustrated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long, to have excellent health, and may all their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and spread in all directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to our beloved teacher, Kyabja Lama Sopa Rinpoche. May Rinpoche's holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously without any obstacle. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail throughout the world. May wars, conflicts, so the wars and they are getting more and more wars and conflicts between countries and in places. So then please dedicate well. So we dedicate we dedicate these roots of virtue so that these wars and conflicts be pacified immediately. So besides that, then pandemic, diseases, natural disaster, and disaster be pacified immediately.
Thank you.